Usable.
Justin Fields' former team, the Steelers, have, well, they've got some quarterbacks, but they don't have a bona fide quarterback because they're still waiting on Aaron.
Call the Titans, apparently.
To make his decision. As of now, the quarterback room consists of Skylar Thompson, Mason Rudolph, and sixth-round pick Will Howard. But no quarterback room is as wild as Cleveland's. They've added Shedeur Sanders. They brought back Joe Flacco. Also drafted Dillon Gabriel. They traded for Kenny Pickett. And Deshaun Watson's still on the roster. He's just recovering from yet another injury. We have been going division by division, grading every team's off-season moves. We hit the AFC North today. And Tyler Sullivan is going to be handing out the grades. We are going to start with the ever-interesting Cleveland Browns, who I think get an A+ for interest. I mean, I want to hear about them. I want to see them on Hard Knocks and all that stuff. But what do they get for what they've done on the field, Tyler?
Yeah, I give him a C+, and it's like a bad version of the Brady Bunch in that quarterback room, right? You're talking about the old head and Joe Flacco. You have Kenny Pickett, who is just kind of weirdly sitting around. And then when they brought in Dillon Gabriel at the NFL draft, you're like, okay, here it comes. They're completely out on Shedeur Sanders. And you get to the fifth round, and all of a sudden, who's the pick? It's Shedeur Sanders. The whole thing is just absolutely confusing. And to me, it says that they're kicking the quarterback decision down in 2026. Yes, they did bring in Shedeur, and that's the guy that everybody was thinking pre-draft could be their answer long-term. And sure, possibly that could be it if it plays out that way. But ultimately, the actions of the Cleveland Browns tell you that they don't view him as a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. If they did, they would have taken him in the second round or somewhere in day two. Who knows? Maybe even in the first round if they really wanted to after they traded down. But overall, this team is building for the future. They're adding on defense in Mason Graham with the number 5 overall pick. They're gaining assets by trading down. Overall, this team is not necessarily a contender in 2025. They're looking more towards 2026 and 2027.
The next team always feels like they're a contender. They never have a losing season. They're always in the mix. They always seem to overperform. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. The question is, how can you even assess a grade at this point when the Aaron Rodgers question is still out there?
Yeah, exactly, right? I almost want to give him an incomplete here. I'll give him a C+ because overall, I do like what they were able to do. They finally were able to find a wide receiver, trading for DK Metcalf, signing him to that massive contract. But overall, who's throwing him the football? We're still sitting here in Aaron Rodgers purgatory, so it doesn't really matter what this team does. It doesn't matter if you go get DK Metcalf. It doesn't matter if you're making strides on the defensive side by drafting Derek Harmon, or you're kind of, you're getting Jack Sawyer late, who I really liked in the draft. If there's no quarterback here, and right now it's Mason Rudolph, who, I'm sorry, that just does not get me excited. That is the same scenario that you were in a season ago where you could barely get to 20 points per game, couldn't do it down the stretch. None of these additions really matter. So as much as I want to give them a higher grade, because I do like overall what they were able to do in certain respects, I just can't get excited about the Pittsburgh Steelers right now because I don't know who's going to be under center. We don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. He's liable to sign with them the second I get off here, or he's liable to take this into week 10 somehow, and we still don't have a decision from him.
It's the first day of May. The very first preseason game is the last day of July, the Hall of Fame game. Let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals, who did what they could on offense. They brought back Chase on a big deal. They brought back Higgins on a big deal. But offense hasn't been the question. The question's on D, and there's still a big question mark for their best player on defense.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I give him a C here, and that's kind of crazy, right? Because you're like, okay, they signed T. Higgins. They signed Jamar Chase. They were able to bring the band back together for Joe Burrow on offense. But to me, this is the same exact team that we saw in 2024. And when we're trying to look at these grades, we're trying to answer the question of, did you get better from a season ago? And I look at this Cincinnati Bengals team and say, no, they're largely the same team. We don't know what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson. That's still kind of the looming situation hovering over their heads. And he is the best defensive player they have. This team, the reason why they missed out on the postseason in 2024 was because of this defense. It didn't matter that they had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who, again, they were able to retain. Credit to them. Good for the ownership to pull out the money and keep those guys there. But overall, defensively, I still have major concerns. Shedeur Stewart in the first round has the tools to be a premier pass rusher in the NFL, but in college, he totaled 4.5 sacks. It's not like this is someone who they're going to bring in and instantly can be plug and play, and you know that he's going to be a game changer on the defensive side of the ball. There's some inherent risks there. So when we have questions about your first round draft pick on defense, we don't know about your best player on defense in Trey Hendrickson, I can't really give you more than a C+.
And that's all you've given the 3 teams so far, a C and 2 C+. The last team, the Baltimore Ravens, you look, you don't see that they did a lot, but they've been better than all these other teams the last few years. Did they really need to do that much?
Right, and that's where we kind of grade on a curve a little bit, right? Where if you have drastic needs and you don't fill them, well, it's an ultimate failure. If you're a team like the Baltimore Ravens who are in their Super Bowl window, you don't really have to do too much. So I give them a B here because, again, you're kind of just picking on the outside corners of the roster. You bring in DeAndre Hopkins, who I do like. I have my concerns about him. Again, he's going to be 33 years old. He's dealt with some injuries over the last couple of years. Wasn't that impactful with Patrick Mahomes. So you ask the question, okay, if you're not good with Patrick Mahomes, what quarterback could you be good with? And obviously Lamar Jackson in his own right is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, so we'll see how that translates. But overall, I do like the addition of Malachi Starks. I like that they have deployed the 5th-year option on Kyle Hamilton. Those two will really help that secondary that drastically needs it. We talk a lot about Cincinnati and their issues on the defensive side of the ball. Baltimore had just as many issues, at least at the beginning of the season, in the secondary. So if you're telling me that they've improved their secondary with Malachi Starks and obviously Kyle Hamilton being who he is, one of the best safeties in the NFL, this team should once again be contending in the AFC.
AFC North report card looks like mine from high school. C+ in algebra, C+ in science. I like it, though. Too many people are like, oh, let's give him a B. You know what? Let's just give him a B.
Cam Ward and Travis Hunter. Speaking of Cam Ward, when it comes to the Titans, head coach Brian Callahan not making any promises that he will indeed be their starting quarterback, even though they did take him first overall. Will Levis most recently holding the title of starting quarterback there in Tennessee. But those hopes and expectations falling a little bit short. Cam Ward already showing off his leadership skills, reaching out to his new teammates via social media and text. Here's more from head coach Brian Callahan.
Yeah, well, they'll have plenty of opportunities. How those reps get shaken out will sort of be determined by how they perform when given opportunities. That part of it's been thought out. We have a plan in place, and what that looks like is going to ultimately be sort of up to them, you know, and how their performance goes when there's time to perform. So feel good about the process and the plan in place, and there's going to be plenty of reps for those guys to compete and get better and improve and be ready to play in September.
Leger Dizabal, love a little bit of coach speak there from Brian Callahan talking about his quarterbacks. I mean, look, you take this guy #1 overall. Clearly, he should be your starting quarterback, which also does bode the question, what do they do about Will Levis?
First and foremost, Amanda, Brian Callahan needs to stop capping. We know Cam Ward is going to be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. You take a guy #1 overall. When's the last time a #1